Test, 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 test. Good evening, guys. Hi, hi. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Fry. Tonight, guys, we're going to be doing, obviously, some World of Warcraft here. We are going to be covering the 285 launch. Prior to that, good evening, Jennifer, Blue, and Michael. Where you guys are stopping in from. Hope you guys are having a good evening, though. Haven't really done a podcast, guys, in a while, mainly because my streams have been shorter to begin with. Normally, we used to do podcasts all the time. Also used to be a cam streamer all the time. As it turned out, seems like as Twitch kind of evolves, it seems less and less important to actually have your cam on, which we've talked about in the past. And obviously just makes things less stressful for myself. But it feels kind of weird doing a podcast segment without my cam on, so obviously you're going to turn it on. Tonight, guys, we're going to take a look at some benchmarks here. We might need to cut out the stream on TikTok, purely because TikTok has some weird issues with basically you covering other people's content, and obviously we can't look at benchmarks without looking at benchmarks, so that's kind of self-explanatory. We'll see how it goes, though. Otherwise, we might need to cut out the TikTok stream and then restart it later after we switch back to World of Warcraft. We will be doing World of Warcraft tonight, guys, probably doing Key 9s. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Let's see, apparently you can change your stream while you're live. Yep. I read the news update on TikTok and it said you could actually change your category live, and it looks like you can't do that. Well, it said you could. That's the only reason I went live. Type in I guess maybe if you're not in the gaming category, you can change your game or your live topic. It literally said in the patch notes that you could change your live topic now. Oh, it's just your name of your video. You can't change the category. You can only change the name while you're live. I don't understand it. TikTok has a lot of reach, guys, but definitely has some growing pains. It's like they're rehashing the wheel from like a decade and a half ago on Twitch. Very, very weird. Very weird scenario to be in, but here we are. So, probably have to cut out content on TikTok, but we'll have to wait and see where it goes. Cut out the stream on TikTok. We'll see how it goes, though. But as I mentioned, I want to cover the 285 launch, which is the new Intel processors, which is completely new compared to the 13, 12, 13, 14,000 series, which are all very similar to each other. The 200 series is now basically new architecture, and apparently it has a lot of growing pains, so yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Well, not wait and see, I already know, but also, by the way, I am very, very certain with the newest patch, they increased the max camera distance. I am extremely certain it's about 15% further, I would say. You can zoom out about 15% more than you used to be able to. I'm pretty sure they changed max camera distance. Not in the patch notes, or at least as far as I know. I didn't look through all the patch notes, so maybe it was. I haven't heard anyone else talking about it, but I'm pretty sure. I was like looking at my character today, I was like, huh, seems like I'm smaller than normal, and it's not. It's camera zoom. Maybe FOV? I don't think there's an FOV, it's just camera. Oh, there is camera FOV. Well, it's still on what I had it on before. So. By the way, guys, as I mentioned, one of the best, most beneficial quality of life upgrades I've gotten for my computer setup, guys, in the most recent years. Nothing to do with hardware. Absolutely nothing to do with hardware. Most recent upgrade I got from my computer is a heated floor pad. Yeah. I think 2 years ago now? Yeah, I think it's about 2 years ago now. If you live up in the north when things are getting cold, oh my god, having a heated floor pad is amazing. It's not like it uses a lot of wattage either, but it keeps your feetsies at like 90, well, whatever you set it to, 95. I have mine set to 95, which is just enough to keep them from getting cold, but not hot enough where they start sweating, which that also becomes a thing. Like just the perfect temperature, and it makes quality of life so much better because, you know, when you get up and you have cold feet, yeah, it just completely gets rid of that. And you can wear all the socks you want, you can wear heated socks or whatever you want, but no. Heated floor pad's totally where it's at. 100% recommend if you have a computer, or excuse me, if you do work in front of your computer. Extremely nice upgrade. Okay, let's get into things here, guys. I do want to do some instances later, which we are going to do. First, we're going to take a look at a review for the 285. Apparently, it's a shit show for Intel. Not a fan of the flashlights you have to wear. I will say, if you actually shop on like AliExpress, you can actually get a lot of the flashlights you get in the US for much cheaper. And, well, I mean, you gotta pick through the crap because it's all crap. Also, by the way, you can get mail order ballots right now, guys, if you are voting this year, as a FYI, so you don't even need to visit the polls. Let's see. Where's our hub? I'm not interested in GN more so than hub. Dude, you guys can say whatever the fuck you want, but AI generation is one of the coolest things to fucking happen. You can say whatever you want. I know creatives are up in arms about AI generation. They fucking hate it. But having basically an image editor that's also extremely good, like this is 100% AI made, by the way. They aren't photoshopping that. That's extremely good is phenomenal. Midjourney, phenomenal, and highly recommend if you are a streamer to use. If you are making custom thumbnails or something, use AI. It makes everything so much better. Using MSI Afterburner wrong. Apparently I am. Why does it have 900,000 views? I don't know. What? Like you will me like again. Yes. Yes, I agree. Unless I didn't get their video up, in which case we won't be watching, Oh, there it is. Take a look at this, guys. Once again, we cover every hardware launch, and because hardware is fantastic,
we can finally take the covers off Intel's latest CPU generation, the Core or Ultra series.
This is the new, just like the 9000 series from AMD just came out, which is arguably not that much better than what's currently available.
Tile-based processor design, and the idea here
this is the new one for Intel, which Intel hasn't made new, not architecture, but a new layout in like
split the CPU up into blocks. Well,
5 years.
When
the 12,000 series came out, 2000.
This approach has allowed Intel to develop the CPU cores on our GPU using a cutting-edge node, while other aspects of the processor, such as the I/O interfaces, they can be built using an older, cheaper, and therefore more cost-effective node. And this approach is very similar to what AMD has done with their Ryzen series. With Arrow Lake being such a radical change from the previous Raptor Lake generation, we could really spend the next hour or so talking about the architectural and platform changes. But since the vast majority of you are really just here for the benchmarks, I'll quickly go over the model that we're testing in this video.
That's the fun part.
Touch on the
actually is
features,
pretty close to where we are. They went through like 4 of them. The 14,000 series doesn't really count because it wasn't really that much of a change. It was basically an overclock of the 13,000 series. 12th generation was October in 21. That's 3 years ago. That's actually pretty impressive. Normally it used to be every 2 years.
Brought to you by Manscaped, the men's lifestyle brand, setting the bar for
fast forward.
So, the new flagship is the Core Ultra 9 285K. And yeah, I agree, it's a bad name. And yes, the Ultra part is completely unnecessary. But you know, Intel's just following the rules, guys. Modern product names, they're required to be unnecessarily long and just kind of crappy in general. So they've ticked all the boxes there. Anyway, the 285K features 8 P-cores with 8 threads, as hyperthreading is no longer used. These P-cores feature a base frequency of 3.7 GHz with a
as I mentioned before, basically I've had, if you have more than 8 cores, guys, so if you have 10 cores, because there's not a 9-core model, if you have 10 cores or more, I would recommend turning off hyperthreading or SMT, which I have a 16-core processor. It only muddles and makes things worse. It will help in some synthetic benchmarks. It will help with maybe occasionally some games. It will maybe help with some simulations if you're doing like productivity workloads, but if you're gaming, it'll almost always just cause issues. I'd highly recommend turning off SMT or hyperthreading, depending on how new your processor is, because you can technically have a 3900X, right? But that's like 2018, 6 years old, maybe even older, 17? I don't know. It's all blurring together now as you get older. Either way, it's not, generally doesn't help you out. But on 8 cores, generally 8 cores or less, or if you're CPU bound, very CPU bound, hyperthreading usually helps. I wouldn't ever actually suggest they just get rid of it. Like having it as being optional, especially if it was dynamically optional, would be phenomenal, but it's not. You can't just use Process Lasso. A lot of people use Process Lasso because there's a lot of processes in Windows that you as a user can't actually deal with because Windows protects them. So it loads up your cores anyways. So there's a lot of people that will just turn off, they think they can just do a synthetic test or something by turning off SMT with Process Lasso because they're lazy, because they don't want to reboot their computer, and it does not work the same way. But I would never suggest they get rid of hyperthreading, but I guess they did, so.
Boost of 5.6 GHz and a thermal velocity boost of 5.7 GHz. So a 5% frequency reduction when compared to the Core i9.
Number of E-cores is the same. Number of P-cores is the same. No hyperthreading anymore. And I'm pretty sure, by the way, the reduction to base frequency as well as the boost frequency, I'm pretty sure these reductions were done because of the problems with degradation to the 13 and 14,000 series. Where basically they just overclocked. They didn't say it in that way. They reworded it. But basically, they overclocked the stuffing out of them, and as such, it basically caused degradation, mainly with the 900s and 700 series models. The lower-end models, it doesn't matter. Here, let me turn off my background, too. But those models, the lower-end models, it really didn't matter. It's mainly the stuff they overclocked the stuffing out of. I'm pretty sure, and there's also overclocking headroom available, which probably means, it very much means that they intentionally lowered this from what it could be because of what happened with the 900 and basically 900, 700 series, so, yeah.
14900K.
Yep.
Then there are those little E-cores, and in total we have 16, again with 16 threads as there is no SMT support. The cores operate at a base frequency of 3.2 GHz, but can clock as high as 4.6 GHz which is actually a 5% increase when compared
it
to
is,
the E-cores.
but E-cores suck, and they're almost never used in gaming. They literally could weed out the A-cores and maybe give you like 8 or maybe 4, like 4 to 8 E-cores, because P-cores are what really matters for performance. It is nice having E-cores to throw your background tasks on, but in actuality, you're almost never going to use them. They're almost never. I had a 1300K for a long time. Well, not a long time, it was a short time. I had a 1300K for a short time. Let me rephrase that. Between when I had a 5900X and when I got my 7950X 3D. And from my experience, the E-cores, even when you use Process Lasso to throw shit on them, the E-cores are never, ever, ever, ever used. You know, like I got the 1300K as opposed to the 13700K because, like, wow, 8 more E-cores, that's pretty cool, right? You know, think of all that I can use it for, and it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. They're never used. A game could properly utilize E-cores, but it doesn't. They could program games to do it and use for specialized tasks, but they don't. And more to the point, there's actually a button in Intel BIOSes to turn off your E-cores because some games will actually be programmed so poorly that they'll actually start using the E-cores and cause stuttering in the game because it does that. The E-cores actually really just suck for any sort of like latency-sensitive benchmarks, latency-sensitive operations. But on the other side, the flip side of it, if they're used for throughput, like let's say simulation or synthetic benchmarks or zipping a file, they can be pretty good. But that's not for gamers. That's generally not gamer things.
36 megabytes of L3 cache.
Where my 7950X3D, for instance, I can actually use all 16 of my cores, and in some games it's actually better than using the 8 X3D cores. And allegedly the new 16-core, X3D, the 9950 X3D, is supposed to be all X3D cores, which would be phenomenal, because it's never worked properly anyways.
The retail pricing will work out to be at least $600.
There's cases where you actually want to use more than 8 cores.
It's also worth noting that
you just never got it right.
Models, which are the only models that have been announced at this point in time, support dual-channel DDR5 5600 UDIMM memory or DDR5 6400 CUDIMM memory. In short, CUDIMM memory features.
It's supposed to be better, but from what I've seen so far, it's not. So there's also that.
Allows more precise timings that are required at high.
Every time I see that
speeds.
acronym, it's literally just
All models
CUMDIMMs.
provide 20 PCIe 5.0 lanes.
I wonder if they
and
intentionally
4
did that.
PCIe 4.0 lanes, along with a direct media interface 4.0 8-lane bus for the
M
chipset.
and the D get switched around.
As usual, the KSKU processors have an unlocked multiplier and therefore can be overclocked. Finally, with Arrow Lake, Intel's moved away from the LJ1700 socket, switching to LJ1851. And despite an increase in pins, this new socket keeps the same dimensions and cooler mounting hole spacing as LJ1700 to ensure continued CPU cooler compatibility with those LJ1700 coolers. On hand for testing, we have a number of these new motherboards to choose from. And for the bulk of the work, we'll use the Asus ROG Maximus, Z890 Hero, and the
By the way,
MSI.
One thing that hardware benchmarkers do not harp on enough, and I think is a huge deal, by the way, is the loss of like fucking 4 PCIe slots here. Obviously, you're going to lose one, at least you're going to lose one to the GPU, right? But the loss of all these PCIe card slots here, no one talks about that. The slots, no one talks about this. That's a huge deal. Because you can plug a fucking USB-C card into that thing and have 4 more ports. It doesn't matter what's on the back cluster. Like, the motherboard manufacturers, apparently, it's just absolutely eluded hardware benchmarkers for some reason. Eluded them. Like, the whole idea that you can actually utilize these slots for upgrades. And instead, when they talk about motherboard reviews, when we've watched them, they literally just talk about the back port cluster and, oh my god, it has more connectivity. And if you're missing these slots, you literally can't do that. It's absurd.
890 Unify X.
Like, they need to be calling this shit in there.
A substantial number of BIOS releases were required to achieve the performance numbers that I'm about to show you, so it's fair to say the Arrow Lake review process was anything but smooth. Basically, it's been a mess from start to finish in just about every way possible, and let's quickly touch on a few of the points that relate to the testing. Firstly, not to make excuses or anything, but we have had a very limited amount of time to prepare this review.
Yeah, I always do.
Intel was only
I think it's every
able to get
single
us a
launch.
review kit 3 days before reviews were set to go live. And let me tell you, 3 days is not a lot of time to do all of the testing that we'd like to do. So some of the tests that we would normally include in our day one review, they'll just have to be featured in follow-up content. But with CPUs available for purchase on October 24th, we wanted to make sure we had some sort of review to help you with the buying process. That is, if you were to buy one of these new CPUs. Unfortunately, review sample delays turned out to be the least of our worries though, because as it stands right now, Arrow Lake is a bit of a hot mess. So much so that I'm not really sure where to start. So let's start with Windows 11. As many of you will know, Windows 11 24H2 was publicly released a few weeks ago.
Something to point out here, though, is even though this is the first generation, first iteration, it doesn't mean all the following ones are going to be turds. And it might be that this, like the one out of the gates, just kind of sucks right now.
But while updating
that's just the way it is. And either next gen or even in this gen, as we've seen with the 9900 series or the 9000 series from AMD, with firmware upgrades and microcode updates, they can actually do a pretty good job of improving things. So it might not be a complete flop.
And after multiple fresh installs to try and fix the issue, I had to abandon 24H2 and instead test Arrow Lake on 23H2.
All right, the processors, Kitty Wampus, guys.
Consistency in the versions of Windows 11 used in our testing, but unfortunately that's just how it has to be if we want to present Arrow Lake in the best possible way we can. But yeah, keep in mind, we are aware this is less than ideal, as we are aware that games perform worse on that previous version of Windows, or at least some games do. But even with a fresh install of 23H2, we were still seeing some stability issues with the 285K. Games would sometimes crash, as would certain applications, and the situation was worse with the provided DDR5
That's usually an overclocking problem, by the way.
Memory. And this was
their boost algorithm isn't working properly.
Revisions, 2 different
it happens with PBO as well,
and even a few different fresh installs of Windows.
Plus maybe some memory?
But I'm sure these teething issues will be addressed relatively quickly, though I'm not entirely sure what the issue with 24H2 is. And it's even more confusing given Intel did all their benchmarking on 24H2, but reported no issues. Though we believe they were using the insider preview build from back in August. In any case, I have spoken with multiple reviewers who have also run into problems, even on 23H2, and board makers have also confirmed there is a major problem with 24H2. So, a hot mess is the best way I can describe Intel's
the 9000 series
at this point in time.
And people were saying the 9000 series was a bad launch.
Let's go over our benchmark data. And for all of this testing, we have used multiple different test systems, but rather than
election cycle, guys. It's because we're in an election cycle. It's ruined everything.
And examine the test system specs on screen. Feel free to do that if necessary. One thing I will note though is that I benchmarked the 285K using both DDR5 7200 and DDR5 8200 memory. The 7200 CL34 memory runs much tighter timings when compared to the new DDR5 8200 CL40 memory. So if a particular game or application is more latency sensitive, then the 7200 memory might be faster, but if bandwidth is the key issue, the 8200 kit could provide an advantage. Anyway, to find out how that all works out, let's get into the data. First up, let's look at how the 285K behaves under load. And for cooling, I'm using the new MSI Mag Core Liquid i360, which was provided in our review kit from MSI. Now, this thing is designed and optimized specifically for the use with these new Arrow Lake CPUs. MSI has created a unique bracket that migrates the cold plate north for a 3-degree reduction in temperature as it better targets the hot spot on these newer CPUs. The cool thing though about this design, no pun intended, is that the unique mounting bracket also provides optimal coverage on LJ1700, AM4 and even
possibly EdSpot.
Okay, time to get into the first benchmark graphs. And I have to say the Cinebench multi-core performance looks very good. And we do know the E-cores work really well in this particular workload based on previous models. Of course, the E-cores here are entirely different based on an updated CPU architecture, and they're also clocked slightly higher, using either DDR5 7200 or 8200.
So even though E-cores are kind of turds for gaming performance, for productivity performance, they actually do really, really well, right? But it's not the majority of the thing you're going to be using it for, so it doesn't really even matter. All right, teaching class, no, we're looking at 200 series just released.
Just over 2,500 points.
Intel 285 series is just released, which is the new Intel CPUs.
900K and 7%
Usually I cover tech on my channel.
9950X. Then when looking at the single core performance of the Arrow Lake P cores, we see
these are the new Intel CPUs after the 13,000 series, 14,000 series.
900K and 6% faster than the 9950X. So a great result there. Now
but as of right now, and even since basically the 5800 X3D, I haven't recommended anyone buy anything other than X3D CPUs, especially after I got a 7950 X3D.
With this testing. So thanks, Steve. And make sure you go watch his review. They have loads of really great power data. But in short, the story goes...
Weird thing. It's one of the reasons we don't really watch Gamers Nexus anymore or covers Gamers Nexus is because they just... People with intelligent individuals get kind of sometimes fixated on certain things that really don't matter outside of things that really do matter. So instead of, for instance, giving you more benchmarking data, giving us better benchmarking data on stuff that people are going to their channel for, which is gaming data, for instance, they're for some reason covering power a lot more. I don't even think they do power supply tests.
Like this. The Asus ROG Maximus Z890 Hero does something rather unique. Instead of feeding all of the power to the CPU through the dual EPS 12-volt rails, as you would typically find on a motherboard, 4 of the V-Core power stages are connected via the 24-pin ATX power cable.
Why?
Unaware of this, I was very confused as to how the 285K with a 250-watt limit...
toilet paper on demand? You never know when you have bodily fluids that just pop out of nowhere, you know. That's the sole reason it's there. Everyone pretty much has toilet paper around when they need it, you know. It's tissue, right?
Being delivered via the 24-pin ATX power cable, and this had been confirmed by Asus.
Welcome to being a fleshy human meat bag, guys.
So, after a retest,
you emit juices and liquids and smells and
I was able to confirm the correct
oils,
EPS 12-volt data, which sees the 285K consume 258 watts in this test, which is certainly an improvement from the 14900K, but also not amazing when you consider the fact that the 9950X was just 7% slower, yet consumes 11% less power. So they're pretty similar, of course, but Intel still lags behind here. And worse still, the 7950X 3D was just 13% slower.
We're probably going to go past the productivity benchmarks and straight into gaming benchmarks. I don't really care about productivity.
Of course, when compared to
and then we'll look at the aggregate, obviously, at the end.
The 285K is a good step in the right direction.
Power management, by the way, or power efficiency, to within a certain extent. This has obviously started as a big deal back when Bulldozer came out, like we're talking 2010, where people started harping, basically because it sucked and there wasn't really anything else to talk about, started harping on power numbers. Power numbers only matter in mobile applications and server. For the most part, it's not going to ever really pay itself off, and you're not like running your CPU at 300 watts, basically continuous, because you aren't running Signbench continuously, right? Yeah. That's kind of the way it goes. What? How? I literally answered your question. I just talked about it. Scroll back in the VOD, dude.
Consuming 17% less power.
What the fuck is that?
Delivering 14% more performance in this test. Now, when it comes to compression performance, the 285K is fine. It's not
but either way,
amazing,
power numbers really don't matter anymore unless you are talking mobile applications, which they most definitely do because it's battery life, or server, which is obviously scale.
For a new generation, but
we're going to skip past productivity benchmarks.
Performance is quite weak though, and this is largely... Okay, so time for the gaming benchmarks.
There we go.
And we'll start with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Now, the Ryzen processors did receive quite a big performance uplift in this
and they're worse than the 14,000 series. But I already knew that.
There was still some gains to be had.
Does CPU help keybinds?
As it stands
what?
right now, parts
what does that even mean?
285K are around 5 to 10% slower using 24H2. So the 285K data you see here was gathered using 23H2. And ignoring the X3D chips, which are just blazing fast in this test, the 285K delivered very minimal. However,
as we talked about, a lot of tech tubers don't really cover the differences between 16-core and 8-core games, and especially games, while they do benefit generally almost always from 8 cores, some benefit from more than 8 cores. And you'll see them 7950 X3D will usually be a little bit slower than 7800 X3D. That's because of the PPM driver, which puts the game almost exclusively onto the 8X 3D cores. But what really matters is when it's put onto like games that can benefit from more than 8 cores. And no one tests it. None of the tech tubers tested. They just go with the PPM driver and call it good.
Performance coming in 4% slower.
You just got a divorce today. Nope, time to find a bottle. Although if you got a divorce, it probably means it was, you know, long time coming sort of ordeal. So probably not surprising.
Though only slightly. The 285K was impressive in The Last of Us Part 1, delivering 7800X 3D light performance, making it a few frames faster than the 14900K.
Well, that's
Though
good.
With the same 7200 memory, we're only talking about a 2% uplift.
Oh, you're pregnant now.
So, again, for a next-gen product, that's kind of underwhelming. Some might even call it a bit of a flop. Now, this is where things go a bit off the rails, and in a big way. I suspect you're going to see some reviews where the 25K is similar to the 14900K in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty.
Well, there's probably a reason. Also, you get half the estate, so maybe that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad deal.
Particularly CPU demanding, and I have some evidence for these claims, which I will show you a bit
Obviously,
later on in the
no.
video.
Although I suspect you're a guy and you're not pregnant and you didn't get a divorce, but putting that aside, and you're probably maybe 15.
And I've spent a considerable amount of time trying to extract more performance
My
out
guess.
of this chip in this particular game. And the best results have come from
16,
using lower
15.
latency memory, so tightening up the memory timings, that seems to help the most here. But I've also tried motherboards from MSI, Gigabyte, ASRock, and Asus, all of which delivered the same underwhelming results.
Apparently you're no longer
I've also
pregnant.
tried multiple different versions of Windows and Windows installs. In the end, the 285K ends up at least 20% slower than the 14900K in this test, and is in fact the slower CPU that we've tested. And sadly, this data, it's not an outlier in our testing. Now, performance in Hogwarts Legacy is certainly much better.
So something I want to point out is Cyberpunk has some weird issues with threading. So right down here is a 285. And we talked about it extensively when I was basically trying to figure out how to make it run faster. Cyberpunk introduced a new SMT option, which sometimes helps and sometimes doesn't, and you have to tweak it. And my guess is they didn't. It's in the options. It's literally in the option settings. They didn't. And the shit settings, outcome they got here probably because they didn't test things properly, which is hilarious. Not necessarily testing things properly. They tested it properly. It's just they didn't test the right settings properly. So, yeah, my guess is he didn't even mention the SMT settings. So my guess is he either don't know, they don't care, they don't think it does anything. This is obvious. This is ever since we went past like 4 cores and then again past 8 cores, there's been all sorts of weird issues with multi-threading in Windows and how Windows Thread Scheduler deals with shit. And people keep saying it's fixed and stuff. It's not. It's not. There's so many cases where it's just bad. And my guess is the instance here of Cyberpunk is purely because they didn't have it set properly. But
now,
it might not be too.
Hogwarts Legacy is certainly much better, but it's still very poor overall. Coming in behind the 14.
Don't make me turn off the on-screen chat, bro.
And is therefore slower than even the 7700X. It's incredible just how much Windows 11 23H2 was holding back these Zen 4 and Zen 5 processors, as we now regularly find the 7700X offering similar performance to the
Also, no, I generally don't drink, especially. Well, I drink socially. I don't drink alone now, and I'm not drinking on stream. Yeah. That's how you know your stream's really dead, is when you start drinking for tips and shit.
ACC sees the 285K
it's been around since like beginning of Twitch, and they had to dial back on that.
Margin, making it 14% slower than the 9700X and 32% slower than the 7950X 3D. So Arrow Lake is
like besides Cyberpunk here, you can see it generally outperforming or being on par with, not outperforming, being on semi-par with the 4900K.
Data that Intel promised us, and the 1% lows are quite a bit better on the 285K when compared to the 14900K. Still, despite matching Intel's previous generation flagship, the 285K was still much slower than the Zen 4 X3D parts. Now, another game where the performance of the 285K tanks to the bottom of our graph is Homeworld 3.
Bet it's threading.
Here we're looking
How much you want to bet Homeworld 3 is using some of the E-cores? How much you want to fucking bet? How much you want to goddamn bet, guys, is using some of the E-cores? And apparently figuring out which cores are actually E-cores is actually a pain in the ass on the new CPU because of the layout. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just based on what I've read. So, am I going to play well? Yes. And I should be under the just chatting category unless they change me back. I'll be playing WoW after we get through the benchmarks here, which is probably going to be another half an hour or so. I will be doing T9s.
Performance is also shocking in A Plague Tale Requiem, and if you've seen other reviews reporting much better results in this particular title than what you're seeing here, please watch the entire video as I will explain what you're possibly seeing. For now, looking at this graph, the 285K is
It has to be. Has to be issues with E-cores, because you've seen it perform decently well in some titles. It's 100% threading.
And this means it's at least 17% slower.
And you'd be able to figure it out, by the way, if they had a graph of the cores on screen.
Than the 7950X3D.
Like right here where you can see the load or something.
Again, we're looking at Core i5
Takes extra effort to do that.
600K like performance, making it much slower than even the Ryzen 5 7600X. Moving on to Counter-Strike 2. The results here are more like what Intel suggested we'd expect to see for gaming, and that is the 285K roughly at parity with the 14900K. So good to see that this is sometimes the case, but a massive stretch to consider this the norm. Certainly based on what we've seen so far, and of course this is still a very underwhelming result in its own right. Now this is odd. The 285K delivered the best performance we've seen in Starfield, narrowly beating the 14900K.
We've talked about this before. This is kind of one of their flaws with their benchmarking methodology. The particular area that they're testing is Aquila. It is the planet of Aquila. And when I was playing Starfield, what you actually figured out when you're running around Aquila is it has problems with either the engine in the background or the disk, because it constantly just sucks data from your disk, like it streams textures. So it actually turns into some sort of weird synthetic benchmark with your memory as well as your disk I/O system while basically running through Aquila. Because I did this. One of the bigger changes is actually downloading a mod that caches, properly caches areas. It's a cache enabler or something for Starfield. And this is kind of like, I've left comments on their video, and it's just the way things are at this point. I've left comments on it, and this is so old that no one really cares about it. We played Starfield for approximately 2 months on stream, a month and a half. And a lot of the fun was basically just putting aside just, doing some of the quests, which are ranged anywhere from just being absolute garbage to actually pretty good, was the modding. The modding was actually really, really cool. But yeah, it is legit. This is not like you'd be better off doing in the capital city, which I don't even remember the name of anymore, as opposed to Aquila. Aquila really sucks. This isn't really even representative of Starfield, I would say.
To make it faster than even the 7950X 3D.
Yeah?
Using the same memory, it was
that
just 2%
your babe?
faster than the 14900K. So that in itself, again, while
already moving on past your divorce, huh?
Game, it's still a highly disappointing result for a brand new CPU generation. Space Marine 2 played fine on the 285K.
Space Marines 2, by the way, is heavily CPU bound and will use more than 8 cores. This is one of the games in which you actually open it up and it'll actually perform better. I guarantee you, I don't have the PPM driver enabled, but I guarantee you, if you have it enabled, it's just putting on 8 cores. Once again, the PPM driver does not do a good job, and AMD doesn't take care of it properly. Yeah, I have it disabled. This is what puts basically it puts the game on 8 cores, or the 8 speed scores in the rare case of Counter-Strike.
Though this new flagship is only
guarantee you, they aren't using all 16 cores.
Offering mid-tier performance, coming in slower than the 14700K, for example.
Why am I being mean to you? Or was it mean to you? Are you trying to gaslight me? Have we reached this point of toxicity in our relationship already where you're gaslighting me?
Good.
By the way, if you're curious about gaslighting, which is very prevalent nowadays, the way you deal with gaslighting is literally just remembering stuff that was said and stuff that happened and not allowing people to convince you that things were said otherwise, and basically calling out the gaslighting and the change of reality by pointing out the fact that I was never actually mean to them in the first place, but they're trying to infer it to make me feel bad so that I can make them feel better.
I've had it looks decent in Hitman 3. It's certainly one of the fastest CPUs in this title, but it's also
just got gas.
slower
All right.
than the 14900K. It's just 2% slower, but slower all the same.
Gaslighting is
So it's
super
difficult
fucking
to get
common
too
nowadays, guys,
excited
all
about
over the
this
place.
result, as we're
This
looking
is a
at
general topic
14700K
of conversation.
performance.
A lot of people,
Now,
especially
testing
guys who aren't
Watch
accustomed to
Dogs
dealing
Legion,
with
we
that,
are
because
using
guys
the
are more
built-in
straight to the point,
benchmark, but the data
and
is
they don't
based
really
on a
keep
6
tabs
run
on stuff. They're
average,
more
as the
just like
results for the first few runs are often inflated. So you can compare your system with
binary
our data
questions,
if you
or
wish,
like straight
but you need to
questions,
take an average
and that's not the
from
way
6 runs, and
gaslighting
that's
works.
6
So,
back-to-back runs.
or it's
Anyway,
very
doing
effective
so
on guys.
reveals some extremely underwhelming results for the 285K, which was only able to match the 14600K.
Like, one of the things I've actually considered doing, guys, in my lifetime is being a tech tuber, but there's literally no best case scenario is basically Linus Tech Tips, which isn't really even tech tubing anymore. It's more of just techtainment, as I call it.
And finally, the last
it's
game
just,
we have tested here
like,
is Star Wars
the money isn't
Outlaws,
there.
which is a very CPU demanding game. And again, the lower latency DDR5
A handful of people, like, even though a lot of people play games, most people don't spend time watching videos
the same level
on,
of performance seen from the 12900K.
benchmarking, for
So
instance.
that's going to do it for our highly disappointing gaming results. Now, for a quick recap, here's how the 14900K and 285K compare.
By the way, when
side
CPU
by side,
benchmarking, most websites nowadays will actually just test, well, not nowadays,
average, the
they used to test at
285K was
720p or even as low as 480p,
14 games we
and
tested,
it's not necessarily because you're going to ever play at that, rather it's because it's a non-GPU bound scenario and GPU never becomes an issue.
Now again,
so
where Arrow Lake makes its greatest strides is in power efficiency.
The CPU, not the GPU.
And again, while much improved from the 14900K, the results still aren't great when compared to the Ryzen competition. Testing with Cyberpunk, we saw a massive 32% reduction in power usage for the 285K when compared to the 14900K.
A lot of overclocking headroom available here.
But that's still 28%
Once again,
more power.
I'm pretty sure it was actually faster than 900K, and then they decided to, in the last like 8 months, decided to actually lower the power budget on it because they basically, Intel overclocked the 900 and 700Ks so far that they just basically broke them. They degraded them, and as they're still suffering financial losses from it. So
which is super
I guarantee you they were actually around the 900, 700K in terms of power usage.
When compared to the 7950X3D, the 285K consumed 71% more power for the same level of performance. So that's not good. Sadly, Intel is still miles behind AMD when it comes to power efficiency, and while shaving off almost 70 watts from the 14900K is certainly great, it's still not really enough, at least at the current performance level. Okay, so if we look at the 14 game average, we see that the 285K is 5% slower than the 14900K. And that's when
they probably didn't do any overclocking.
And this means on average it's
I just take a look at probably TPU's done overclocking,
making it about as fast as the new 9600X, which is quite shocking. We had Zen 5%, now we've got Arrow Lake negative 5%. Doesn't really have the same ring, I know, but I guess I'll just quickly move on. It's also on average 14% slower than the 7950X3D, and here we can see just how well Ryzen processors have benefited from the 24H2 update. I mean, for example, the 7800X3D, it's 14% faster than the 14900K, which is absolutely insane. I had to double check that data because it just didn't seem possible.
750 actually is faster in some cases than 7800X3D, by the way.
I'm not sure what the latest
depending on how it is spread over 16 cores.
Didn't impact performance
and also,
too much.
So there's actually some problems with between the 8-core and the 16-core models. The 8-core model, if I remember right, has a 115 watt power budget, where the 16-core has an 180 watt power budget, which means obviously there's less wattage per core, and that can lead to scenarios where basically cores get starved, and you'd have to clock lock as well as power lock them to make sure that they have the same basically comparison baselines, which none of the tech tubers actually do, by the way. Which is one of the reasons that you'll actually see, even though this has 8 X30 cores on it, like this chip, it underperforms comparatively.
In the negative sense, but whatever the case, an absolutely incredible margin is seen between these two parts now in the latest and greatest games.
Thank you.
Now, normally for our cost per frame analysis, for CPUs at least, we also include the cost of the motherboard and memory. But
this I imagine is going to change quite a bit in the coming months.
Which are typically quite high-end parts, stuff like the motherboard and memory prices, they're all really much the same. So while it might reduce the overall margin slightly when calculating all of that stuff, things will look pretty similar. And that is to say, the 285K doesn't shape up too well for gamers. In terms of value, it's actually very bad for gamers, offering similar value to that of the 9950X, which isn't known to be a particularly great value gaming CPU, and that makes it much worse value than the 7950X3D, which is probably the best all-rounder right now, I'd say. It's also much worse than the outgoing 14900K.
Where's the 5700X3D?
That particular chip has had. And I should note, we don't recommend that chip and we have never recommended it. Quite shockingly, the 7800X3D, which has sold for as little as $340 US this year, is still worlds better in terms of value at $480 US. So even with the recent outgoing price hikes for that part, it's still holding up really well.
There you go.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, Arrow Lake's gaming performance was even worse on Windows 11 at 24H2. And Intel is aware of this issue, and they've suggested that reviewers should enable the high performance or high power profile in Windows for the best performance on 24H2. They also thought there might be an issue with the ring bus clock with 24H2 and suggested changing the CCF Auto GV setting from Auto to disabled in the BIOS. So as I was wrapping up my testing and thinking about maybe I could get some sleep at some point in time, there were a few other things that I had to explore. So I've done so with a limited set of gaming benchmarks to see what we could find. I've also taken the time to include a fresh install of Windows 10, as I know many of you still use this operating system, so you're no doubt interested to see how the 285K performs using this older
And then there's that,
Windows.
the kind of,
okay,
the
so
stank in the room,
I've
which
highlighted
is
the
Windows
23H2
10
data
that still exists.
I've just used to evaluate the 285K's performance.
Which actually
Now,
arguably sometimes is
the
better
average
than
frame rate
Windows 11,
increased
even though
by
it shouldn't be at
3%
this
when
point.
using Windows 10, so that's good. But there's a good chance we'd also see a similar or possibly even better performance uplift for a part like the 14900K. Then we have the default 24H2 configuration, which uses the balanced power profile, and this crippled the 285K, reducing the average frame rate by 8% from our 23H2 install, while slashing the 1% lows by a massive 36%. So something is very wrong
Stink in the
here,
room?
and it
No,
does
I
seem as though
shower.
it has
There's no
something to do with
stink.
the power profile, as the high performance power plan boosted performance back up to 150 FPS on average,
talking
which
about
is still
yourself.
less than what we saw in 23H2,
Is the tissue there to
but
clean
it is a
up
big
you?
improvement all
Maybe.
the same. Now, it seems as
Gotta
though
use it
the
on chat occasionally.
285K performs best in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty when using 23H2, as going to Windows 10 saw us drop a few frames, though you could say the results were within the margin of error. Oddly though, 24H2 worked best with the balance plan, as the average frame rate regressed by 3% when using the high performance profile. Also, the CCF Auto GV option did nothing here, and this was also the case in Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Still pretty
Now,
confident
the
they have the
Homeworld
threading
data
settings
highlights
set up
just
wrong in the
how
game.
messy this Arrow Lake testing has been, though these results do make
You'd
some
be able to
sense.
figure out all
We
this
know
if you actually
Homeworld
looked
3
at
performs poorly
the
on 23H2, as
Trinity
24H2
basically running
is
in the
much
background.
faster when testing with Intel 13th, 14th, and AMD Ryzen processors. So the fact that Windows 10 is almost 20% faster than our 23H2 install makes sense. However, what doesn't make sense, at least initially, is the fact that the 285K doesn't improve on 24H2. Well, that is until you manually adjust the power plan, and now we're receiving performance that matches that of the Core i7-14700K. Unfortunately for Intel though, we have to pick a single OS configuration and test that. We can't just pick the best results based on 4 different
Why don't you just
configurations,
constantly change your
and
Windows
there
version,
appears to
forehead?
be no option where everything works correctly.
I don't know,
at least at
guys.
this point in
I'm
time.
surprised they actually tested more than
A
one
Plague
game.
Tale Requiem was a mess on the 285K, and sadly 22H2 and 24H2 can't fix the problem. In fact, the configuration I used for testing provided the best results. Also, it's odd
Name
how slow
Benefer,
Windows
no.
10 is here, but I have tested all 14 games and I did see a few examples of this, so there's probably some optimizations that aren't present on Windows 10. Finally, we have Counter-Strike 2.
I have
and here
a
the
version of it. I have an
23H2
install for every
matches
single
what we
version
saw
of
when testing
a
with
game that I
Windows
want to
10.
run. Every single version of
Meanwhile,
Windows, guys.
24H2
For every
is
game I
much
want to
slower,
run.
no matter how we
I just have them
configure it,
image to just
though
re-image my
changing to
PC
the
whenever I
high
want to play a
performance
different
profile
game.
did help a bit. Just lastly, I should note that all the gaming benchmarks that you just saw didn't have Intel's APO or application
Just wait.
optimization.
You're one of those people
feature
that wants to
enabled.
open your Christmas
And this
gifts
feature
early,
was
aren't
not
you?
enabled by default on our
You
motherboard,
are.
at
I
least
can
with
feel
the
it.
current BIOS used for testing. But Intel says
We're going to look
this will
at
be fixed in a future
overclocking
update.
and GN
I
as
didn't
well,
really
but we're
worry
going to
about
skip
this
through
though
it.
for two reasons. Firstly, of the 14 games that we test with, just 2 of them feature APO support, and those titles include Counter-Strike 2 and Cyberpunk 2077. Out of interest though, I did go back and enable APO and found performance in those titles only changed by about 1 to 2%, which is within the margin of error. So either APO does next to nothing in those titles, or it's not working correctly yet. So this is something we'll have to revisit in future content. Now, something that confused a lot of viewers when it came to the recent round of Zen 5 reviews was the inconsistent benchmark results, namely the gaming benchmark results. And there's a number of valid reasons for why that was. Some of these reasons include just testing different games. But even in the examples where the game list overlapped, results can still differ due to how the game is being tested. And I don't just mean the quality settings used, but also in-game
I'm not here,
testing
TikTok.
versus built-in benchmarks.
Thanks, broski.
The latter of which generally isn't that CPU demanding. But even when it comes to in-game testing, the results can still vary considerably depending on where it is that you're testing within the game. Or, I suppose more precisely, how CPU demanding that section of the game that you're testing is. So we're no doubt going to see this again with the Intel Core Ultra reviews,
I don't think this is ever going to get fixed anytime soon. It's a problem with AMD CPUs too, with the PPM driver, which we talked about earlier.
Now, one such example that I'm confident you'll come across if you watch enough reviews will be seen in A Plague Tale Requiem. I was talking with another reviewer who found that the 285K was actually faster than the 14900K in this title, which shocked me, given I found the 285K was 17% slower. So that's a massive difference to find when comparing the benchmark results between different reviews. And again, if you come across those results, it's no doubt going to be a bit confusing. And not wanting to discount that as some kind of testing anomaly, I dug in to find out what was going on. And fortunately, I was able to work out what was going on. And better yet, I can clearly show you the issue. But put simply, again, it came down to where we were testing in the game. I had found a particularly CPU demanding section where the other reviewer was testing the very start of the game.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, as mentioned, so you obviously have looked at this already. What I mentioned at the beginning of this video is this is a new, it's not really new architecture, and it's a new layout and basically a completely redone CPU at this point, which is going to have basically, pitfalls to begin with. But my guess is, after the degradation to the 13 and 14,000 CPUs, putting aside threading issues, which definitely looks like they're having a problem with it in games right now, putting that aside, I think a lot of the issues are actually coming from the boosting behavior, which they had to tone down significantly because they basically fried the 13 to 14,700, 900K chips, right? So, yeah.
The battery
there's more videos here. You don't understand that this is literally like football, where we sit here in pause state for a prolonged period of time while we go through the footage. So
here's a look at the benchmark
it's actually a podcast. We aren't just watching the video.
As you can see, the 285K performs very well, delivering over 100.
It's literally part of my stream. I don't know what you want. It's like me. You're coming to my stream and telling me to stop being me.
Also, please note this isn't how we benchmark CPUs. I'm merely using the hardware info overlay for presentation purposes. And doing so while recording does involve some overhead. So without all that stuff going on, performance would be a little bit higher for both configurations.
Unless they're using a capture PC.
You can see, the 285
they have 5 million PCs, so I don't know why they're doing it.
Faster when testing at the start of the game.
Yeah, I want a lot of things in life. Why don't you donate money to me?
Finished with roughly the same
500 subs right now. Do it. Do it how? I know you said you got a divorce, so you got half of basically everything.
But if we jump further,
you said you're a chick, so
So this exact pass here.
Yeah, spread the wealth a little bit.
Load has increased.
Yeah, how many billions did he get in the divorce?
Huge. Remember, these CPUs have loads of E-cores that are doing nothing during this test. So that is to say they're largely sitting idle. But right away, things look very different. Not only has the frame rate dropped considerably for both configurations, but the 285K's performance has tanked, dropping well below 100 FPS at the start of our test, making it a little over 20% slower than the 14900K. It never recovers either. Midway through this pass, it's still around 20% slower, dropping more than 20 FPS behind the older Core i9 part. So this really highlights the challenge of CPU gaming benchmarks. It's considerably more challenged than most GPU benchmarking.
Also how you differentiate yourself from your peers and become the better publication tech tuber, I guess. Publication publication outlet is by doing things better, and this is basically giving them opportunities to test things better than everyone else, and he's instead saying it's a pain in the ass. So,
which is quite easy in comparison. So there you have
I am polyamorous, and I've had many partners over the years.
Too much sense. So, as reviewers, we always love to see that.
Including some now. But I do not have a monogamous relationship with anyone that lives with me, if that's what you're asking.
I expected them to flawlessly execute on a new platform and CPU architecture release, I had hoped it would be more polished than this. Depending on the hardware and software configuration, I found that stability could be a problem, but I expect this will be something that gets addressed quite quickly.
Another one?
But even so, it is worth being
Not from KickChat. Not from KickChat. I think anything, as far as my experiences over the years, anytime it actually involves like a romantic relationship involving your stream, it's generally not somewhere you want to go. Kind of like you don't piss in your bed sort of shit. But also at the same time, you get some really interesting individuals that you meet through streaming. Not holding against anyone. I'm just saying in general, you meet some pretty interesting individuals while you're streaming. And it's kind of a shit show as far as that goes. I don't think, like, for instance, I'd ever actually date another streamer. Because I can only imagine, maybe in being discreet, maybe. But like as far as like an open relationship with one of them goes, I don't think I'd ever do that. Like it just absolutely just one of those things.
And they have come back to me with a few options, though nothing.
Mainly because streaming is a lot to do. There's a lot of downtime when you stream, right? Where you just are playing games, and playing games is what everyone else does. So you have to find ways of differentiating yourself. And a lot of people pick up drama as a way to do that, and it helps at first, but then it hurts your channel in the long run. It's just kind of the way it goes.
Satisfied with. So as
you're bi? No, I'm polyamorous.
Is a mixed bag to say the least. Overall, what we're seeing here is very poor from a next generation flagship product. And if Intel are unable to make significant
what's the one called where you like everyone?
Then Arrow Lake will end up being a flop for gaming. For productivity, the 285K looks a lot better, but it's still not great. And while I am certain there will be workloads where it does really well, there are plenty where the performance is underwhelming when compared to the 14900K and 9950X.
No, I don't find guys physically attractive.
What has massively improved?
Like I've had friends in my past that kind of wanted to hook up with me, but it's not really something even like if I'm really friendly around them. Sometimes people get a weird idea like when you're just, being friendly with them. Guys are generally pretty straightforward as we talked about earlier though, but like I just don't find guys attractive, so my life would probably be easier if that was the case, regardless of what you might think. You can pretty easily find people on Tinder if you're a guy looking for another guy versus a guy looking for a chick, as it turns out.
From the 14900K is power efficiency.
Yeah, no shit, Artie. So that's pretty much it. And they turn it into content. It becomes content. The whole thing becomes content, especially the more it turns into, like, the more kind of dirty the breakup becomes, right? Because people have feelings and emotions for each other, the more likely it is going to turn into some sort of fucking shit show that's going to end up all over Twitter, just like shit everywhere.
Significant strides here.
And some people are so short-sighted that they'll literally burn, like when they're emotional, they'll literally burn the world to the ground if it makes them feel better. Like it is, and oftentimes, like when you're in the heat of the moment, it's not even something that makes you feel better for more than a couple minutes. Once you realize the shit that you do wrong, but you still do it anyways. And that's not... Yeah.
In most instances, it's still miles off where it needs to be in order to.
You're looking for mini chicks, yes. I mean, not like you not being into guys has nothing to do with looking for women. So, dating in the U.S. is in a really weird spot now with the last couple of years too. As far as gender dynamics go, in terms of relationships, like women want to be in kind of control of stuff, but they also want you to initiate and you be in control, but at the same time doing what they want while they're in control. It's really, really, really weird. I actually was. As we talked about and I covered over the years, I've been through Europe a couple different times, and European women, for instance, I'm sure as other parts of the world, mainly just getting out of the U.S. is the kind of takeaway here. Much easier to talk to, shoot the shit with. They don't, like, when you talk to women in the U.S., it's generally more, it feels like you are at a business, like at an interview for a job, and it also feels like they're oftentimes just on edge, like you're the mortal enemy sort of person when you're just, trying to be friendly with them, right? And you don't get that in other parts of the world. It's just mainly in the U.S. and U.S. gender dynamics as it's turned out. And the U.S., especially with younger guys, are just completely lost because basically they've been told they are constantly toxic, and women will tell them that that's what they want. They want an emo guy sort of shit, but in actuality they don't. And there's all sorts of horror stories all over Reddit about being dumped after, be vulnerable, cry in my arms sort of shit. And there's all sorts of horror stories basically from guys that have done that and basically gave their significant other the ick, as it's called, and it fucking ended their relationship. So yeah, U.S. is in a really, really weird spot right now. Not everyone, by the way. Some people are, they don't care, but politics is very difficult to ignore nowadays.
Inconsistent gaming performance in general. The 285K can, at most, in my estimation, command a $5.
Also, by the way, pause the video.
Asking price. So, given all of that,
yeah.
I'm obviously not recommending.
Yeah. So, reason also, by the way, there's a lot of men that are single in the U.S. in the 18 to 30 demographic.
I likely won't until all of those things.
63% to be
As for stuff like overclocking, because there is apparently a lot of overclocking and tinkering and tuning that can be done here, but given all the issues that we've run into and just the need to explore performance on multiple different versions of Windows, I deprioritized overclocking for the day one review. Overclocking is something that I'll no doubt look at in future content, but for now it's somewhat irrelevant given the numerous issues that need to be addressed first. There's also the topic of memory overclocking, and while the review kits were supplied with DDR5
with
CU DIMM memory,
with AMD, if you get a Ryzen CPU, make sure you get an Expo kit, which will automatically have Expo tunings on it, and that's all you basically need to know for AMD.
I'm not even sure what this memory will cost, but I know the standard 8200 UDIMM stuff is priced near $300 US, and that's for a 24GB kit. So presumably, the newest CU DIMM kits will be even more expensive.
UDIMM is supposed to help with latency and overclocking capabilities. It's basically a new memory standard, and it takes a lot more space on the motherboard. Actually, I think some of them do.
But again, once those issues that we've already spoken of are addressed, I will produce some memory scaling content to work out what the sweet spot is for Arrow Lake in terms of memory support. Wrapping this review up, I think there is potential for Arrow Lake to get a lot better, given it does appear to be undercooked at this point in time. So although I strongly recommend you don't rush out and buy into this new platform just yet,
for now,
I'm not willing to completely write it off at this point. So yeah, like I said, potential here for Intel to possibly recover, but that is yet to be seen. So
I mean, AMD kind of did with their intercore latency issues and some of their performance numbers.
To test Arrow Lake as we receive new updates and stuff like that, and we do have a few more CPUs to look at, so I'll probably speed run those reviews and
okay. Thanks, Steve. All right. Let's take a look at Gamers Nexus now. We are not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to quickly go through some of the spots in the video, basically their gaming benchmarks, because basically we just watched the synopsis from GN.
Entire X3D lineup continues its dominance.
It's wattage, efficiency. All the stuff gamers really care about.
With old microcode, and the most up-to-date frequency entry sits between the two flanks of the early 1400K tests. Finally, this chart shows all core averages in the same test. The 285K averaged 4867.
One thing I do like about GN is they test 0.1%, 1%. It always seems like hardware and box 1% numbers are really weird, and they don't test 0.1% at all.
A lot of 2023 and 2024 games in this test suite with a couple of mainstays from the past. Dragon's Dogma 2 is up now. This is one of the 2024 titles we added to our suite last time. It's had updates that affect performance significantly since our last benchmark, so this is all new data, like everything else here. APO doesn't do anything in this benchmark and isn't supported. We tested it with on and off for the 14900K and 285K, and its performance was the same. So we removed the redundant entries here because they have no impact. We didn't want to take the chart space. The 285K landed at about 104 FPS average, with lows at 64 and 51. This allows the AMD 7800X3D at $480 to lead the $590 285K.
Kind of looks like they ran into a CPU bottleneck there
with
at
the
the top end.
14900K leading at 5% over the 285K.
CPU bottleneck, not CPU bottleneck.
CPUs are functionally identical, so there's no explicit advantage there. The 14700K and 13700K also lead the 285K here, with the 14700K far cheaper at $350. Not even close. The 5700X3D and 5600X3D are effectively
800X3D is still on top, guys. If you own an AM4 platform, you literally have to be singing praises about how long that CPU's last for. Or 5700X3D, which is basically just a slightly slower 5800.
We end up with this set of results when fully retested in 24H2 and with the new microcode and AGISA for everything. The 7800X3D sets a ceiling pretty high and establishes a 28% lead over the more expensive and higher power consuming 285K at 438 FPS to 344 FPS average. The 14900K is also advantaged, this time by 12%, with a 385 FPS result. The lows for the 285K were 186 FPS 1%, which is a worse entry than the 14900K's 250 result. The frame time pacing appears better in step with the average on both the 14900K.
Which is weird because with hardware and box, they're closer in their numbers, right? The 14900 than these guys are getting.
Appears to do something in this game. The 285K gained 1.3% with APO on, so that's very exciting. We can hardly contain ourselves. I'm trying to keep it in right now. You'll surely notice the extra 3 to 4 frames per second on top of the other 343 before them, and we're glad that we spent half a day troubleshooting Intel's fumbled pre-launch settings to gain those frames back, because whatever would we have done without the extra 0.0369 milliseconds reduction in frame time if we had not troubleshot that for half a day. So that was phenomenally exciting. The 14900K also gained about the same amount. It is irrelevant on both. Using DDR5 8600 on the 285K with Gear 2 and blasted VDIM boosted the 359 FPS average result we see here. That's a 4.5% like-for-like lead over the 344 result. This is almost enough to get the 285K tied with the 2-generation-old 13700K from 2022, but not quite. It does, however,
based on these benchmarks, I'm very certain if you overclock it a bit, you'd get back basically the performance that is missing, and their kind of conservative power numbers are purely because of what happened with the 13 to 40,000 series with degradation.
Ends up in the middle. It's fitting that the Core Ultra 9 is in the middle of a cluster.
That's not saying it's going to be better than a X3D chip, but it'd still be much better than where it is comparative to old generation.
The ceiling.
It might even be faster.
By 31% in this game at 353 FPS to 270.
Clocks are almost linear in terms of performance if you are looking at something like the speed increase you'd actually get.
One of the largest declines in Intel's performance in our gaming
if you're going an extra 600 megahertz, for instance.
XD are also at the top here, showing that Dawn Trail generally likes cache, at least on these CPUs. The 5700 X3D is a little bit lower down since its frequency is 300 megahertz below that of the 5600 X3D. So these results make sense, but it shows that Dawn Trail is also sensitive to the frequency. The 285K ends up below the 14700K and 13700K, with APO doing nothing on the 285K. It's within error. Final Fantasy XIV is officially supported by APO, though, and it's on the games list. And we do see a slight uplift on the 14900K of 1%, although that's basically error. Switching to DDR5 8600 on the 285K.
I mean, to be fair, they're kind of doing what AMD did with launch,
where
they're talking about like little extra settings they can tweak to get a little bit extra performance out of it. AMD settings that they're talking about were quite a bit different, though, in terms of performance gain.
As a result of the frame rate bouncing off of other limitations, we saw a 1.9% uplift from APO on the 14900K.
They don't test 0.1% anymore?
Again, did not benefit from APO, with both entries at 255 FPS average, plus or minus 1 FPS. Baldur's Gate 3 is up now, a 2023 title that we added to our permanent test suite this year. We test an Act 3 in a densely populated city for a heavy CPU load. The 7800 X3D establishes a 26
just not in all games, which is also kind of weird. I think that's been a thing on Gamers Nexus for a while. I don't know why. Probably can't get consistent data.
At about 105 FPS average. The 5800 X3D, 57 X3D, and 56 X3D also lead the 285K, through the 13900K, 13700K, and 14700K. Toggling APO did nothing here and was within.
Can't wait for the 9950 X3D, guys. 9950.
Swapping to DDR5 8600 memory boosted the 285K by 7.6%, allowing it to pass everything except the X3D CPUs. This also perfectly aligns with why X3D does so well here. Of course, shoving better memory into the 14900K or 9000 series would also boost them fairly proportionally. Stellaris is up next. First up, APO has no impact in this game, at least not in the simulation time. The 285K required 32.5 seconds for the simulation, finally putting it ahead of the 14900K. The 285K requires 1 to 2% less time than the 147 and 14900K CPU.
What you'll actually notice here is this is a game where more cores is actually turning out better. Having higher core count in general is turning out better than either X3D or lower core count chips. And there are multiple games. This is probably one of the newer examples with a game that actually utilizes more than 8 cores. There are multiple games like this, like Space Marines 2 does this, Helldivers 2 does this. Not as like extreme, but then you start talking about things like Cities Skylines, and Cities Skylines will literally eat your entire CPU. It doesn't. Yeah, like when I was playing that with my 16-core processor, we completely uncorked it, and it was eating 80% of my CPU. And there's plenty of people that were having issues with that, and that's obviously more than 12 cores, right? At 100%. The
7800 X3D outranks the 285K again and requires about 3.7% less time for the work. The 9700X remains the fastest here, which is consistent with our last round of data, and boosting memory helps in this game, so the 285K benefited from a 4.3% reduction in time to complete the simulation. Rainbow Six Siege is up next, in this one the 7800 X3D leads by a much smaller amount to complete the simulation. Rainbow 285K benefited.
Maybe it doesn't, because the 9700 is beating out the 9950X. So maybe it's not an example of that. But X3D cores doesn't seem to help either. Once again, the PPM driver, it's kind of curious, guys. The PPM driver kind of fucks with things. And as I showed you guys earlier, and it makes me wonder how much it's influencing things here. Actually, I don't know, because then you got a 9900X down here, and then you have the 9600X here. Wait. 9950X and 9700X, which obviously there can be clocking differences in here too.
From a 4.3% reduction in time to complete the simulation. Rainbow Six Siege is up next. In this one, the 7800X3D leads by a much smaller amount at only 6.6% for 622 versus 584 FPS average when APO is in its default off position that this board shipped in. The 14900K was tied. Enabling APO did nothing on the 285K. The result was within error when considering we're at almost 600 FPS anyway. Enabling it boosted the 14900K by 1.7%, and this is with Intel's shitty Microsoft Store app confirming that it's enabled for both CPUs. This boost is reduced for the 14900K versus APO's launch because Rainbow Six has updated the code that was causing problems. Going to DDR5 8600 increased performance over the 584 result by 2.6%. The 285K is at least better than the 14700K in this one, with an uplift of 2%.
13000 series, however, have pretty good 0.1s compared to even AMD or Intel itself.
$280 to $290 when you can still find it. As a general note, this game has some serious 0.1% low consistency issues, actually.
You guys.
Notice that the 12 to 14 series CPUs have significantly higher 0.1% low.
Something to do with threading, because also AMD has it too.
And then the 285K alike, so it's easier to look at a frame time plot. Here it is. Because Intel noted that Rainbow Six had specifically tuned it to reduce reliance on APO, and because of the low advantage of Alder Lake Onward, we're assuming that Rainbow Six Siege has specific and manual tuning by the developers for Alder Lake architecture and its more recent derivatives. This frame time plot shows the 14900K is overall highly consistent frame to frame, with most of the intervals deviating at most by 2 milliseconds. There are a few spikes, but only one notable spike to 6 milliseconds, which is a 4 millisecond deviation, and thus it wouldn't be noticed by the vast majority of users. Adding the 285K, we see several spikes to 10 to 11 milliseconds. By themselves, these frame times aren't bad. 60 FPS would be 16.67 milliseconds, so this isn't a huge stall, but it's a change from Raptor Lake, and it's objectively worse. In Starfield, another 2023 game, the 7800X2D maintains a 2% advantage over the 285K at 145.4 to 142.5 FPS average. Normally, we wouldn't read the decimal points, but here they are significant to showing any kind of percent scale. We're bound elsewhere here, and that elsewhere is obvious and pretty cool, actually. The DDR5 8600 result jumps to the top of the chart, illustrating that at least...
Think they're also testing in Aquila? Do you think they're also testing in Aquila, guys, where I talked about it basically being a place that's bottlenecked by memory in your I/O subsystem? No way, right? No way.
Some of our limit here is memory. As a reminder, applying the memory tuning treatment to everything would boost all numbers. So looking at baseline will give you an idea for sort of their headroom plus the baseline. The 14900K actually falls behind for once. It's at a slight loss to the 285K. We think this corresponds with the cache advantages based on the memory performance that we just saw, where it's really using cache and memory. APO, once again, does nothing between the two main 285K entries. Total War Warhammer 3 is up now. The 7800X3D led the 285K by 7.2%, with the 14900K leading by 2.8%. Total Warhammer 3 is on the APO list, so it is supported. On the 14900K, we saw an uplift of about 1.2%. If that's considered supported, then great. On the 285K, we measured an improvement of 0.6%, which is actually just
0.1%, so holy shit.
Lows in this game have been historically awful on Intel's i9 CPUs, which we previously proved is due to scheduling challenges with the thread count. The 285K
I fucking cores, guys. I-cores. Literally, E-cores. Literally, I-cores. E-cores, guys. Literally talking about this beginning. Yeah, which is why they have a button to turn it off. And you look here with lower core counts, and all of a sudden it fixes itself, right? Yeah, it's 100% a fucking problem with E-cores. If the thread scheduler doesn't take care of it, it turns into a shit show. With AMD, even if the thread scheduler, the PPM driver, doesn't take care of it, which sometimes actually makes things worse, it doesn't turn into that bit of a a shit show, because the cores are basically relatively similar to each other. Even if you're talking about the X3D cores versus the normal frequency cores, they're very similar to each other, and it's not going to cause that much of an issue.
These somewhat improve here, possibly by...
Intel, on the other hand, if you get a game that runs on your E-cores, they're just going to explode unless it's made to run on them.
We're getting into production benchmarks now. We'll run through these pretty fast.
Okay.
So Blender's up first.
Oh. We're not going to watch the conclusion, guys. Kind of curious. 285K overclock. Oh, it's actually one of the predicted benchmarks. Let's see. Is there anything here for overclocking? Oh. All just like your, right out of the gates. I'm actually really curious about the overclocking benchmarks, mainly because, once again, degradation that happened in the 134000 series, dropping the TDP down, so basically the max wattage they can consume, and potentially where it could have been, but Intel got cold feet. There's already overclocking review. Clocking results. These are forums. Tech power up. Take a peek here. Tech power up is still probably the most reputable current. I don't even call it website publications for tech nowadays, because they all kind of dried up. Nantech closed doors too. Rip a Nantech. Website still going? Here. Nantech's done though. Keeping it online. 285K. Okay. Apparently we don't look at tech publications because it's not an active topic matter where I can really show it to you guys, so makes it less engaging. Aggregates here. Yeah. So all kind of match the same. GN, hardware unboxed, and tech power up are kind of in agreement. What's going on here? Ray tracing benchmarks are pointless. Ray tracing is just a button you push to get slightly better visuals at a huge performance loss. And it's neither CPU nor GPU bound. You're generally ray trace bound. And it makes it extra worthless to look at. There's some people that advocate them because they're heavy into NVIDIA, and obviously NVIDIA performs better on ray tracing. But it doesn't test anything except for basically the ray tracing engine on the card. It's a waste of time. Here we go. Clock frequencies. Okay. Wait, what? They overclocked it and then didn't test anything? It's lower than the boost clock speed. Okay. Maybe overclocking isn't actually all that interesting for 285. Rip. Alright, well. Well, there you go, guys. It maybe has absolutely nothing to do with the power budgeting on the chips themselves, but it's tough to figure that out until people get more hands-on time with them, and people start to figure out the changes Intel made to the 13 and 14,000 series and the BIOS updates, besides just limiting basically voltage to them. So, well, 285, maybe. We'll have to wait and see where it goes. It's going to be interesting. Like, people will, like, shit talk, like, news, like, because it's not better than their last gen for the most part, and it's not better than AMD, so then they shit talk it. Generally, you have to go through an iterative process, and generally something they make is going to end up worse, and then they'll make it better and better and better, right? So they'll build on it. It could just be that this current iteration kind of sucks, and you could maybe either performance might improve in terms of like the amount of time it's been out, or might not. But you'll have to wait and see. Either way, it's good that they're getting away from the 12 to 14K series, because basically they outgrew it more or less, and they tried to make something better. It's worse now, but, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of ordeal. So, you just have to wait, see where it goes. This I expect more out of overclocking, though. Okay. Alright, guys. I wanted to take a look at this with you guys, because we cover all, basically, the hardware launches. But we're going to play some Gamaz. We're going to do some keys now, guys. We're going to do some WoW. Let's see. Oh no! I was fapping to that. I know. I know, guys. And 1 second here. And there's a new mount that released that everyone's... It was like 500,000 gold that everyone's just like walking around on now. You guys are curious about that. Everyone has to show off their really expensive mount. This happened when the Brutasaurs first released too. So, definitely nothing outside the ordinary. Okay. I'm gonna go wash my coffee cup out, guys, and grab a soda, and then we're gonna play some keys here. 1 second, guys. I need to do some different instances tonight. Alrighty, guys. Let's see. Found your mom made last night. Oh, got him. Everyone's showing off the really expensive mount that actually no one actually cares about. Yep. Found a lot of gold, guys. Look at my mount. Yeah, I gotcha. Alright. So. Alrighty, let's see, where are we at? You hit 2K yesterday, so that's good. I think we're gonna try 9s tonight. And we might just explode, by the way. What do we got? 10. 8 complete. What the fuck does that mean? 9? Ends tonight. Turn off the sound of mounts? Is that possible? Hootin'. I have to compromise here. Alright. Wow. Surprisingly, other servers don't have 5 million Brotosaurs in the middle of their fucking plaza. Actually, there's 3 here. I lied.
We are the Titan's bedrock and foundation.
I laid my foundation in your mom's bedrock. Oh. 1 second, guys. 1 moment, please. I'm very certain, by the way, with the patch this week, they increased the camera max distance. Although you've been able to do it for a long time, either with mods or a command line. I'm pretty sure they increased in the most recent patch. By 15%, I would say. All right. Thanks, bruh.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. See what kind of healer we got.
And now you learn the true lesson of the void.
So here we are. High Speaker Ida. Or is it just Ida? No.
And fucking pulled for some reason.
He's probably running like a frightened mouse.
Fuck.
You slick, cowering, timorous beastie.
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
What's going on here?
Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Your ascension.
Target change. Watch your step. Watch your step.
I'm not sure if that was a healer that pulled or what. I don't want to line of sight the healer.
Watch your step. Frontal.
Your ascension.
Frontal. Target change.
Keep my cooldowns for the boss. Also, you can see boss triggering, by the way.
Gruntle.
What's this?
Target change.
Titanic earthen technology enhanced with magical augments. Brilliant.
Intruders approaching. Activating defense protocols.
Watch your step.
Seismic protocol activated. Offensive measures engaged. Dominant intruder identified.
Watch your
Seismic
step.
protocol activated.
Backwards kite, guys. Love it.
Offensive measures engaged. Dominant
Defensive.
intruder identified. Engaging offensive protocols.
Your ascension.
What?
Watch your step. Target change.
Offensive measures engaged.
I use it too soon.
Run.
That's not good.
Defensive.
Intruder identified.
Okay, healer got me.
Watch your
Seismic
step.
protocol activated. Offensive measures engaged. Dominant
Defensive.
intruder identified. Engaging offensive protocols.
Watch your
Seismic
step.
protocol activated. Offensive measures engaged.
Laser on you. Run.
Dominant
Defensive.
intruder identified.
Your ascension.
Watch your step. Target change.
Oh, that's the hard boss. Well, not the hard boss, but one that you can have problems with.
Looks like the main door is locked. Either one of these paths should lead us to an access console.
This game. Good, guys. You know, with Crusader War, there's another paladin in the group. And the 1%, even 4% doesn't, 3% doesn't even matter. I potentially could get an extra 1%. That's not good. Gok's still down. Also not good.
Watch your step.
You might die here.
Watch your
Hit by the balls, guys.
Watch your step.
Like, min-maxing has almost... There's a lot of things that go wrong prior to you just min-maxing. But people obsess about min-maxing because it's kind of like part of WoW culture.
Target change.
Do some really stupid shit where you won't hit some sort of check, like a mitigation check, or you stand in the shit, or you don't get heals, or some other shit goes wrong. I just about died. Someone fucking pulled the other fucking group!
Watch your step. Watch your step. In flood.
God, a DPS. This thing is the same fucking guy. I think it's a paladin. It's a dwarf we saw earlier. fucking shitting me? And they're gonna blame me. Don't overpull the packs, man! Don't overpull the packs when I didn't fucking pull the goddamn pack. Why are you pulling so much trash, man? You're broing like we're part of a 15. It's fun in games until you literally fucking wipe the group and then people complain. DPS don't give two shits.
Watch your left.
Who's that? That is a shaman.
Watch your left. Target change. Watch your left. Watch your left. Watch your left.
I literally pointed it out. Uh-huh.
Watch your left.
And we still had someone die the last fight.
Watch your left.
At your rate, we aren't timing. Okay. Alright, well, let's pull more.
Watch your left.
We can pull more then. Let's keep pulling more. Alright. Alright, let's do it. We'll limit test then, shall we? We'll 100% still make time. These guys are full of shit.
Your ascension.
Target change.
Just gonna fucking love it. The rogue and the shaman.
Machine speakers. In the stone vault. Fanatically loyal, no doubt.
Intruders detected. Defense protocols activated.
Interrupt 1. Defensive. Watch your left. Round activated. Defensive. Interrupt 2. Watch your left. Defensive. Find clear vent. Target change. Interrupt 1.
Break it down!
Watch your left. Interrupt 2. Defensive. Find clear vent. Watch your left. Run to edge of room. Defensive. Interrupt 1. Watch your left. Defensive. Find clear vent. Interrupt 2.
Break it so much!
Ah. And 2 people died. Good.
Look for another minecart. If it's here, we might
Gotta
as well
clear
use
trash
it,
here,
unless
too.
you'd rather walk.
Target change.
And the shaman's complaining right now. We aren't going fast enough. There's not enough trash, by the way, if you don't clear that. There's not enough trash at the end of the dungeon to actually finish off the percentage that you need. What's this different? Ooh. Man, we almost died. Almost died. That was close. You guys gonna pull trash? It's a shaman. Yeah, it's 100% a shaman. Did you just see that I almost died on the last trash pack? What do you guys think?
Watch your step.
Died again.
Target changed. Watch your step. In flight. AOE incoming.
And they pulled another group.
Watch your step. Target change. AOE incoming.
Guy died. That was a healer that just died.
AOE incoming.
A golem fused with Spartan corruption? Fascinating.
Watch your step.
Ah, so the guy's only an asshole to male characters. That's
Watch your
great.
step.
That's good stuff.
Watch your step.
The healer just stood in shit and died, and they're perfectly fine.
Watch your step.
Oh, that's good.
Target changed. Watch your step. Interrupt.
Good. Fuck off, shaman. Give two shits, and he just used the aggro ability.
Defensive. Target change. Watch your step.
Your ascension.
Target change. Target change. Watch your step. Defensive. Target change. Watch your step.
Good shit. I mentioned before, guys, people tend to only be assholes when they're in groups of people. Like, with a bunch, like, when they're with their friends. If they're alone, they're usually pussies. But when they get, like, with their friends, it's just a bunch for them. They gotta act like an asshole, because they have backup. If it's just one guy, like, they usually don't want to stand out. They don't want to be the guy.
Charging.
Yeah?
Look out. Beyond saving. This seems like
the other guy?
Your ascension.
Target change. Charging. Move. Charging. Move. Charging. Move. Charging. Move. Knocking back. Watch your step.
Also, by the way, half of figuring out as a tank, as we've talked about before, when you get into a dungeon, half of figuring out what you can do is not just literally just fucking wiping on shit. It's figuring out what the healer is capable of doing as well as your tanking. That's not the DPS that gives two shits about that, and I'm out of mana now.
Your ascension.
Target change.
I mean, that's how you die, so yeah. Not really. You can do that. That's where you overpull and you die.
Charging.
I'd rather waste a wipe on a boss as opposed to just taking things slow at the beginning and seeing how much basically you can handle.
Charging. Move.
Well, I told them I needed to drink and I had no mana, and then they just pulled again.
Attack totem.
Bro. Well, I mean, that's if you survive. There's also a case where the healer lags behind because they don't know exactly how much you can take either. There's a learning aspect to every group when you first do it. You can do it whatever way you want. These guys are being douchebags and trying to make me overpull. Once again, they don't care. This is literally going to kill us at some point if no one has anything. You don't need mana to heal yourself. Alright, dude.
Attack totem.
There's like a major like bro complex in here. These guys trying to be assholes. It's like, I'm surprised it's not going to actually destroy the group. We'll have to wait and see. That's one of the reasons, by the way, you don't actually type. And that's one of the guys, by the way, that's talking shit that just died to the AoE, if you're curious about that. Oh, buddy. Urkel just popped, and I didn't even fucking see it. But...
Attack totem. Watch your step.
Problem with people like this, though, is they're super fragile, and I really don't want the group to fall apart. I'll have to wait and see. Generally, why I haven't said anything to these guys in the group. As I generally don't.
Target
Causes them to self-immolate, because they don't give two shits.
Knocking back. Watch your step.
Also, because we're doing a diff 9 and I haven't done diff 9s yet.
Knocking back. Attack totem. Watch your step.
Fucking Raider. Raider bros that probably do this with their guild and they're pissed off that it's taking so long because we aren't a guild. Yeah, like I said, everyone wants to go faster until you wipe and then it's all your fault and they blame you.
Knocking back.
Always the way it goes.
Target change. Grandpa. Dispel near lift. Spread. Grandpa safe now. Dispel near lift. Safe now. Grandpa.
Like half a paladin mitigation. These guys are telling me I don't need to heal because we have a healer. Half a paladin mitigation is literally word of glory now. Which is why my HP bounces all over the fucking place constantly.
Target change. Dispel near lift. Safe now.
And exactly the right amount of trash. A neck. Uh-huh. Give me the tanking trinket. Piece of shit. So, Hey, Caleb. Good evening, bro. What an asshole. So, the guy immediately... The guy who won the neck immediately just gave it to his friend, despite 2 other people in the group needing it, which are both assholes. The asshole was the sham as well as the, rogue. DPS still shit. No way of getting away from that. Good heals. We didn't out-heal the healer this time around, though. We can figure out exactly how much boss went off. Boss, you can see going off a couple different times there. Multiple people died, by the way. They said we weren't going to make time if I pulled the same way I was. We 100% were going to make time. 100% going to make time. And they didn't even know that we needed to pull an extra pair of trash at the mine cart earlier, which we did, which we wouldn't have if we didn't stop to do it. They thought we were stopping to do it because the cart was there, but it was both. It was routing. But they don't know. They don't know that. They don't understand that. They're just dumb DPS. Let's see. Called again. The ritual. So we only had 15 cases of Holy Ritual, which is actually pretty low. I think I used Boff once. So I think Boss only activated maybe 5 times? Yeah. Boss only activated 5 times. Their instance was actually pretty good. We had a pretty good healer that instance, despite the DPS trying to kill us. It was both of these 2 guys. And, by the way, this guy, who was the Moongar guy, this guy was telling us to fucking stop talking. Because he, like, it's literally, like, you can tell who the fucking kids are, guys. Like, you can literally tell. Because he knows it's going to fall apart if you just start talking back to, like, the little squeakers, you know? It's just, like, if you say something that actually hits them, they literally just fucking, like, fall apart and emulate the group. I fucking hate kids so much. Metaphorically hate, obviously. I'm not here to be your parent, you know? It's one of those things. I'm not here to raise your kids. So we upped our difficulty. Did a 9. That's pretty good. What else do we got going on here, guys? Right. All the shit instances are the ones that we kind of need to do. I'm not a super big fan. Organic groups are starting to pop up. I mean, we could try this. I kind of... Oh, we'll see what happens. We did a 9, we're alright, for the most part. Oh! Oh! I also want to do set piece before I forget about that. We got a new set piece from Quest, I believe. Where it actually kind of matters is... We'll actually just do that right now. Here. We got a set piece yesterday from one of the quests, and where it actually matters is because of the champion piece of gear. Guy. Let's see. That's for a set gear, which I don't really care about because we have a 4-piece now, but I can replace my veteran piece now. Technically, we got it the 4-piece earlier. I knew about that. A lot of stuff you don't realize you can get gear from until it gives it to you, which is usually too late. I don't even know what that was from. I don't think it was even from doing the dungeon. It was from something else, like getting a certain eye level. And unfortunately, it doesn't start a quest. One of these guys gives you PvE and one gives you PvP gear. Out of a raid. Be a threads vendor. Okay, so we have to go over to City of Threads, apparently. Alright. But it's always the way, guys. It's literally a catch-all. It's, the DPS will always want you to pull harder, and those guys were actually, misdirect pulling. If you guys didn't see that, the tips of the, it was like, tricks of the trade from Rogue. I've seen it all over the years, and literally, by the way, I have one of these sitting in my bag, so I could actually just insta-give the guy if I wanted to. If I want to be an asshole, there are 100% ways I could have been an asshole in that instance, which I didn't do. I've dealt with all that shit over the years. Guys?
What treasures I have. Interested in the unusual.
Guys.
Come.
One of these, I believe, is PvP.
Elix Cottage. Return for more. Most appreciated, Overcrawler. The weave has delivered a customer.
This is the PvP gear. Increases it to 639, and like this should actually be completely. This should be indicated in some way that it's PvP gear. So you have to look at the bottom here. It's particularly the equip item level to a minimum of 639. PvP gear. So I think we're gonna replace our head with. Why is one of them 619? No. What the fuck is this? Why? Why isn't it all the same eye level? I mean, that's the one we need, but... Alright, bro. I have one piece of veteran gear on for my set piece, which is my helm. Served me pretty well. Upgrading my veteran pieces actually made them last quite a long time. And it was a pretty small investment. That's what we're looking for right there.
Return for more.
Sure. Right. Hey! No more trashy veteran pieces. Actually, do I have any veteran pieces in here? I probably do. My belt. Belt's veteran. Trinkets veteran. Oh, we can also start upgrading my weapons because we're starting to get Gilded Crest now because we're doing 8s, 9s. Ah, good stuff, guys. Good. Alright. Stuff, guys. Not most instances. There's definitely a lot more people being assholes in this expansion pack than there were in prior ones.
What do you
So, weapon. Where's my weapon? Oh, yes. 2? 100, 400. I think this is just linear. Might as well. Shield by upgrading the shield, guys, was a terrible, terrible idea. Terrible idea. Also, what's the exchange rate? 15 gilded. 15 for 50. It doesn't even give you a pro rate.
It is a world of wonders.
Yeah. All right.
Good.
Yes, Paul, why are you asking for food, man? Why don't you just pull the group? And this, by the way, I think was a side grade. We did get, that guy gave me a trinket. I don't think we're going to use this. It is an upgrade, though. Making trinket. Taunt abilities activates the module's refracting energy. I have one taunt ability that I never use. Well, I use it if I use DS. Bro. I mean, I could macro this so it just goes off every minute. I don't remember if this is off the GC or not. You don't use any mana, guys. If you didn't know, as a paladin, you don't use any mana because you don't need to heal yourself. Ah, yes. One second, guys. There's something going on with TikTok right now? Oh, don't know. Yeah. Well, we got a new headpiece. That's pretty cool. And slightly upgraded our weapon. Upgraded our trinket last night, too. Also, we missed out on Best in Slot Trinket, because I thought it was a different name, and it wasn't. What did I say I wanted to swap? It was... I don't think this is actually good. Heck. It's purely a proc. There's no static stats on it either. Yeah, we missed out on a Best in Slot Trinket. That's actually pretty good. Huh. This is down and I make a macro, that means the macro isn't going to go off properly. I guess I could put it at the end of the macro. The insignia is at 4.2%. I could wire this to Divine Toll. I like Arathi Signet because it actually seems to do pretty good. Here, let's give it a test run here, guys. So we're at about 4% for Wrathy Signia. We can make a quick macro. Is it just randomly playing Stormwind music? I don't actually know. They happen once every 2 minutes, but that's fine. I can't wire it to Avenging Wrath because I cast Avenging Wrath when I'm not always around enemies. Even this I don't always cast when I'm around enemies. Blessed Hammer? All these are ranged. This I sometimes cast at range too. Breaks. Fine. If I put the larynx first, it's going to air out though. On cooldown. It doesn't. It just constantly spams item is not ready. Alright, I think that's best case scenario for it. 4.2%. Okay. Alright, guys. Good. Good.
Work cycle interrupted.
Alrighty. Let's see where we're gonna get there first, guys. Seek anything. Dawnbreaker. Ready.
Five, 4, 3.
Stop giving me
2,
trash pull. Oh my
1.
god.
With its
Fine.
complement of cannons, it can... Wait. Who are those intruders? Since the decimation of our armada, with its complement of cannons, it can... Wait. Who are those intruders?
Got it. That's nice that help with trash are pretty phenomenal. You don't always do that though. There you go, have one of those.
Knight is trying to steal the flagship.
Shaman? What is a shaman?
Secure the deck. We need to gain control of the ship.
Good heals.
Your ascension.
Target change.
Airship's approaching. Be careful, outsider. Those aren't ours.
Interrupt.
You get interrupted, bitch.
They empowered Veladar's shadows. The Lamplighter's blessing will keep you safe.
Post-patch Paladin, though. Very easy on the healers. I wonder if you can get rid of the... There must be a... I bet there's a way to get rid of that. Not that it really matters that much, it's just distracting.
Target change.
They've got us surrounded. You'll need to use those mounts of yours to fly to them.
Good one. What?
and defeat the crew.
What? What are you talking about, bitch? We're already here. Where are you?
Only one more ship and the Dawnbreaker is ours again.
Who's our healer?
Target change.
Lots of resets.
We have learned to embrace the dark. Be not afraid. Let it embrace you. The night sky empowers me.
Defensive.
Eat it. The boss, I thought this was trash. Well, could I use my defensive?
The shadows bless you.
Watch your step.
Let night be unending.
Your ascension.
Target change.
Feel night's embrace.
Defensive.
That's not a defensive. You need to get out of the way of that shit.
She's lost control of her magic. Get out of there.
I've actually been not inside the orb, and I've died to the orb.
Watch your step.
To the dark. The shadows bless you.
Defensive.
Feel night's embrace.
Watch your step.
Night be unending.
Defensive.
The shadows bless you. An eternal night.
He's invulnerable.
She's lost control of her magic. Get out of there.
Wonder if I could just sit in there with DS. I probably could. I don't know if I want to risk a group wipe on that, though.
I feel the dark's embrace. Down here, champion. The cultists have overrun the city. Find and defeat them, or we will have to face that commander at full strength.
Ah, they're going the back way. I've never went in the back way. Sometimes you gotta change things up, you know, and go in the back.
Target change. Watch your step.
Extra trash here. Let's clear the trash anyways. It's probably actually the best way of doing this.
Watch your step. Crowd control. Frontal. Watch your step. Frontal. Frontal.
Your ascension.
Target change.
Here, let me take against the wall here. If I remember right, this guy throws you.
Run.
Yeah. I just feel like your damage just kind of falls off. I don't actually know.
Your ascension.
They try to the
Target change.
There's a
Interrupt.
lieutenant in my house!
Interrupt.
Usually you have to pull extra trash anyways, so.
Crowd control. Interrupt. Crowd control.
At least last time I did this, we had to pull extra trash because I actually maxed too much.
AOE incoming. Frontal. Frontal. Target change. AOE incoming.
I'm AOE incoming.
I think
what the fuck?
A little longer.
Oh my god. They battle res me right as the other guy down. Okay. I thought there's two guys still there. People res right away. That's good. I ate the AoE frontal cone, guys, even though I wasn't in front of it. That's too close to the edge, apparently.
AOE incoming. Frontal. Frontal.
We have extra trash? What the fuck's going on? We do have extra trash.
AOE incoming.
Can't tell all the time on the grass that you're standing in front of it. This is really light purple.
Target changed. AOE incoming.
Christ. I think we have an extra mob in here.
Your survival wasn't necessary.
Fuck. I don't know if we ran out of heals or what's going on there.
AOE incoming.
Bro. What the?
Your ascension.
I have no idea what's going on. People are like literally not landing on top of me. Do I need to mark myself as something different? Land. What the fuck are you doing? Bro!
AOE incoming.
What the fuck is going on here? I don't understand. Is this like, do people clear other trash or something? Why is this guy still fucking aggroed to me?
This darkness is overpowering. Remember to get the lamplighter's blessing.
Bro. Like, what is going on here? You're so slowly to land. Are we all here now? Okay. That was some major malfunction we had going on there, guys. And like last pull, we had like 3 extra mobs, one of which was like a super tough one. There's a spider in there.
AOE incoming. Gruntle.
So sometimes this really goes like this. This instance goes to shit. This is a new spot for it to go to shit for me. So.
AOE incoming.
Luckily, my daughter and her children are safe.
All right.
You've
Good.
weakened the command
For the horde, I think we got some horde in here.
Thank you.
Everything there. Hey, we did it, guys. All right. We're totally not making time, but at least we got through it. And this guy, you land at the bridge.
They've taken the inn as a foothold, and a lieutenant leads them.
Your essential.
Target change. Frontal. Frontal. Watch your lip.
Your ascension.
Target change. Watch your lip.
And you have to send it down the hallway.
I simply wish you had lasted a little longer.
So apparently it's somehow, maybe it hit the wall? Maybe they're too close to the wall? Not properly. And... yeah. Alright, well, that's the end of that party. We can't, obviously we weren't making time anyways. How many K item levels do I have? Is that potassium? That was something I'd... like, that's... like, we were standing in front of the stairs, guys, in exactly the same spot. In exactly the same spot. Like, what, 5 different times or something? Just standing there. And people were landing everywhere except on me. Like, all they had to do was land on top of my model, and they were like, "Are you supposed to tank in a different part?" I don't fucking know. I don't know what's going on there. That was a really weird one. Next one. That was a misunderstanding of mechanics, and then people just derping out. I actually, so, like, the weird thing is, guys, I don't actually know, like, just talking about that right now. Like, that aisle? I wish you could bring up the zone map. Again. Where is it? Not even really the map. Anyways, I think it's right here. There's a bridge right here. The boss is right here. I don't actually know why you killed the ad right here. I'm not exactly sure why that is. If it's to reduce difficulty or what. Ruby and lieutenants. That's not a lieutenant, though, is it? We killed the other ones. Maybe it is. I think it is. We killed... No, maybe it's the last one. Never mind. Last lieutenant. Because we killed the church, we killed the stairs, which, once again, I'm not exactly sure why we had problems with that. That was really weird. Alright. The dungeon. It's not really that bad of a dungeon. You just have to know positioning. I think every group, we definitely had some issues with the first boss if you don't know how to do it. We have oceanic groups popping up now. It's getting too late. Might not get another one tonight, guys. Wish you could type dash OCE and remove them. Pretty easy for them to do. Yeah. Late night games, guys, get kind of sketchy, both in terms of what people are looking for, and then people get angsty and cranky because they're up past their bedtime, and everything goes to shit. Wait and see, though. Alright, well, wait and see, guys. Alright.
Communication initiated.
Wonder if it's actually faster to teleport to Azkahit and then take the flight path. And he left. Wait. Hands down, best zone new expansion pack though is Halo Fall for sure. Well, hopefully we can go in soon, otherwise we're probably just going to call things here. I know, guys, you're staring at a standby screen. It is almost 4.
Cobus infest the hungering pool and attack our people. Cleanse the pool of their filth.
Alright. Well, that didn't work out. We aren't going to sit and keep for another 10 minutes. Normally I don't, because it's going to take at least 30 minutes to do the dungeon. Normally we don't start one this late. So I think we're going to call things, guys. Unfortunately, just sit there and look at a standby screen. And we weren't getting a healer. And it's just the way it is sometimes. So... anyways, we had a productive day tonight, guys. Got some gear drop pieces, upgraded a piece of gear. We're now starting to do... higher delves. We definitely can do 9s and maybe 10s. We'll have to see how it goes. That was the fucking Dawnbreaker was an absolute shit show, though. And I don't think it was necessarily because we couldn't... Like, it was just a bunch of shit that just went wrong, unfortunately. So... Yeah, like the first boss started out great, everything started out great, and then people just started wiping and doing dumb shit. So, I don't know. I guess Raider IO probably couldn't have predicted that at all. As it turns out. Yeah. Just, yep. Late night dungeons kind of turn out in a couple different ways. Mainly, people just losing focus, doing dumb things because it's really late. People get cranky and then act kind of angsty and angry and ornery, and they don't put up with stuff, and yeah, basically mom said it's up past your bedtime and they don't go to bed, and they just decide to do one more. So alright, we're gonna call things here for this evening though, guys. Tonight will be more World of Warcraft. We'll be working on the ratings. I know we didn't do much tonight, but that's because we were covering the 285 case of the new Intel processor launch, which is definitely something. It's a to-do, so yeah. Cover all the tech launches, mainly because it's cool and just because it's different stuff. But not really everyone's cup of tea. Just the way it works. Normally we used to do a lot more podcasting. Haven't really done it recently, mainly because my streams are relatively short anyways, so there's no takes away from the time we could actually be spending playing and doing instances. So, yeah. Either way, fuck off. Be doing more tonight, guys. Going to be doing Dawnbreaker, probably a couple of these. I mean, we got pretty much everything stagnated at 7, so we can do a lot of these. Mainly, I wanted to do the instances we haven't really done, because basically we did them and it worked out. We didn't really have problems with them. The main problems we have is City of Threads, City Echoes. We don't really have problems with Dawnbreaker. Don't usually have problems with Dawnbreaker. The 2 new instances, these guys you definitely have issues with sometimes. And I guess we're going to be doing more of them, so we'll have to wait and see. A lot of opportunity tonight for different instances, though. And hopefully get away from these 2 and do some other ones in here. We haven't done Necrotic Wake in a while. We haven't done Grim Patrol in a while. Siege of Borealis we haven't really done at all because we just basically just one-shot it. So, get some crest going, upgrade some gear. We got a new headpiece tonight, too, because it was a freebie. 19 freebie, I'll take that. Yeah. Continue upgrading my weapon. I'll upgrade something else. I have to wait and see. Be rough. Either way, we're gonna call things here, guys. If you are new to the stream and you enjoyed the bullshit, enjoyed the fun, you enjoyed watching Talking about the 285 reviews. Make sure you hit the follow button on your select platform. I stream to Kick, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Trovo, as well as TikTok every day from late night to early morning, GMT-6, so late night North America time. I do stream for about 5 to 6 hours, give or take. It depends on my life, what's happening, etc., etc., guys. We're out of here for this evening, guys. Tonight will be more of the WoWs. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my stream as always, and I hope you guys have a wonderfully fantastic Thursday night and Friday morning. Have a good day, guys.